Welcome to part 3 of Let's Play Space Assassin by Andrew Chapman. At the end of the last part, I was on paragraph 309. Let's reread this paragraph as a reminder. Okay, behind the door is a path floating in mid-air at a precipitous height over a wide and distant countryside. It must be miles below you, yet is still within the Vandervecken. The path, looking tenuous and unreassuring, flies arrow straight into the distance. You head across it, eventually arriving at a T-junction. The path splits and flies off in two new directions, neither offering a visible end to the possibility of a fatal drop. Will you follow the path left, turn to 345, or right, turn to 50? We're going to go left and go to 345. Now the path flies straight for a long while before ending in another T-junction. Looking down, you can still see the alien countryside, while to the left and right the path hangs in the air, precipitous and unending. Which way will you turn? Left, turn to 70, or right, turn to 219? We're going to go left and turn to 70. You make good time. The path curves for a bit and then ends in a massive grey wall which seems to extend down towards the alien countryside. Going through the door at the end of the path, you find yourself in what is obviously a security nexus. Two dome-headed guards dressed in black with matching leather straps, boots and holsters are seated at a wide console, engrossed in a direct telecast from Epsilon Indy of 0G Fangball, which is showing on all 10 security monitors in the room. The guards leap to their collective feet when they see you, shine the tops of their scalps, and take up assertive postures. "Who are you?" they ask suspiciously. Will you fight them? I'll say that again. "Who are you?" they ask suspiciously. Will you fight them? Turn to 108. Attempt to bluff them into thinking you are part of the ship's crew? Turn to 146. Or look into your pack for some other means of overcoming this obstacle. Okay, we're going to look into our pack. So turn to 184. If you have any of the items below, choose which one you will use and turn to the appropriate page. Aerosol can of nerve gas, turn to 275. Deck of cards, turn to 311. Container of ball bearings, turn to 347. Or pan-dimensional homing device, turn to 396. If you have none of these, you will either have to fight them, turn to 108, or bluff them into letting you through, turn to 146. We have the pan-dimensional homing device, and there it is. Let me just put that on a new line, actually, because that's annoying me. Yeah, good. Okay, so we have the pan-dimensional homing device, which should have another parenthesis, but doesn't. I'll just say use now, because I've used it. Okay, and let's turn to 396. You press the buttons on the homing device. Immediately, the guards are surrounded by a pulsing orange light which seems to freeze them. After a moment, a pair of revolving doors materialize around them and promptly turn, taking the unwitting security officers out of sight. The doors continue to turn around a couple of times before evaporating. There is no sign of the guards. The floor of the room, apart from the few tiles on which you are standing, disappears as well, to reveal a truly enormous giant standing on some hyperspatial mountain. It speaks. Payment for those two will be either 2 weapons, or 4 grenades, or 8 pieces of armor, or any 2 other pieces of technology that you might possess, such as a gravity bomb, infrared goggles, nerve gas, etc. Failure to pay will result in your instantaneous transmission from this dimension to another of my choice. If you cannot pay this price, then you have failed. If you can pay, delete the items from your equipment list and turn to 203. We're going to use our gravity bomb, so I'll just say use that. So we're getting rid of that. I'll just say gone, actually, because we didn't use it. Gone. And we'll get rid of the nerve gas. So that's gone as well. So that's that. So now we can go to 203. The guards are vanquished, but a red light is flashing on the video controls. Perhaps somebody or something has been alerted. You had better hurry. The room has 2 The room has two other exits. One is a security door and the other is a simple manual sliding door. If you don't already have one, you may take an assault blaster from one of the guards. Now the assault blaster is a very good weapon because that allows us to roll a die after we get a hit, and the die determines how many points of stamina that we take off, so between 1 and 6, so that's quite good. And it's a weapon, it's not a normal item, so it doesn't count towards our item tally, if you know what I mean. So I put an asterisk next to it. Anyway, through which door will you go? The security door, turn to 109, or the sliding door, turn to 257. We are going to go through the sliding door, 257. The door leads to a small kitchenette with a delightful aroma. A pot of coffee is sitting, begging to be drunk, and on a sideboard are some fresh sandwiches. Will you stay here for a while to eat, turn to 293, or will you go back into the security nexus and through the other exit, turn to 109? We're going to stay a while and eat, so turn to 293. You sit back and take it easy for a bit, regain 5 points of stamina. After recuperating, you leave the kitchenette and go into the security room through the exit, 10 to 109. Okay, did we need the stamina? No, we didn't, so we're already at maximum. 10 to 109, but that's quite nice anyway. The exit leads you down a corridor and into a wide circular room whose floor space is almost completely taken up by a deep, still pool. The only areas not covered with water are a path leading around the edge of the room and a very narrow bridge without handrails which passes over the middle of the pool. Both of these lead from where you stand to another opening on the other side of the room. Would you cross the room by taking the bridge, turn to 147, or the path, turn to 185? Okay, there it is. We are going to take the bridge, so turn to 147. You cross the bridge easily, the lack of a handrail being only mildly disconcerting. You go through the other exit, turn to 373. Through the opening is a chamber occupied by a brutish-looking extraterrestrial draped in large sheets of armor plate and toting a whopping great disintegrator aimed at you. In the wall behind this unfriendly being are 3 large circular doors. Stop, it says, peering at you with a pair of close-set beady eyes. To pass, you must answer my question, if you think you are intelligent enough. Will you attempt to answer the creature's as yet unasked question, turn to 15, look in your pack for some other means of passing it, turn to 295, or forget about niceties and just blast it, turn to 383. There he is, looks like a cross between a pig and an armadillo and a man. And a gun. Okay, so we're going to attempt to answer the question, so turn to 15. What's the question, you ask? This, answers the alien. What is the next letter in the following sequence? O, T, T, F, F, S, S, E. When you have decided what the next letter in the sequence should be, determine the number of that letter, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, D equals 4, etc. Multiply that number by 10, so A equals 10, B equals 20, etc. And that is the number to which you should turn. If the page to which you turn doesn't make sense in context, then you have obviously made a mistake and are destroyed with the creature's disintegrator, and hence the book is over. Okay, now this is one of those lateral thinking puzzles. You have to think very laterally with this. Think of words that have a sequence that begin with those letters. If you want to have a go at this, I'll just pause the video and then unpause. And then unpause, and then I'll because then I'm going to reveal the answer, obviously. Yeah. Anyway, so if you want to have a go, pause now. Okay. The solution is the letters are the first letter of the numbers, the word form of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the next letter should be N for 9. Then it would be T for 10, E for 11, T for 12, then T for 13, so on and so forth. So it's OTTFFSSEN. Now N is the 14th letter of the alphabet, something I always remember, and so 14 times 10 is 140, so we should go to 140. Okay, the answer is of course the letter N. Correct, says the extraterrestrial. You may pass. Through which door will you go? The right, 10 to 34, centre, 10 to 14, or left, 10 to 381. We are going to take the centre door and turn to 14. After a short walk down a corridor, you find yourself in a room occupied solely by 70 or 80 floating black spheres, so black that they look like holes in the air. They drift about the room in a lazy circular motion, touching nothing. On the other side of the room, through the spheres, you can see a door. If you have the pan-dimensional homing device, you can use it if you want, 10 to 128. Otherwise, will you ignore the spheres and walk straight through the middle of the room to the other door, 10 to 382. Try to reach the other side by dodging past the spheres, 10 to 90. Go back to the room from which you just came, and take the left door, 10 to 381, or go back and take the right door, 10 to 34. We're going to ignore the spheres and walk straight through the middle of the room to the other door, 10 to 382. And there are the spheres. There we go. So 382. Here we come. The spheres part before you as you stride boldly forward. Over the other side and through the door, you find yourself in a high-ceilinged hall. Down both sides of this hall, standing on short stone pedestals, is a small but weird collection of simulated life forms. They stand facing one another across the floor. Aluminium birds, tungsten steel, turtles with 6 legs, and creatures you don't even recognize. There are 8 in all. You walk slowly down the middle of the room. As you draw level with the first pair, they come to life, swiveling slightly to face you. The moon is red, the sky is pink, says the first. Which is faster, light or time? Asks the second. What will you answer? Light, 10 to 89, or time, 10 to 225? We're going to answer time and 10 to 225. Check, says the first. Ditto, says the second. They swivel back on their pedestals and proceed to ignore you. Passing them, you are confronted by the second pair of creatures. They turn and speak. Up is up and down is down, but do they really exist, or are they ghosts, as the second? What will you answer? That they are real, 10 to 272, or not, 10 to 387? We're going to answer that they're not real, 10 to 387. I will just say I don't know the logic of these, I just know the correct answer. It's not like the other puzzle, I don't know what this is, I just know the correct answer. I don't know if it's meant to be that way, or if it's just guesswork, or there is a logic to it, I have no idea. Right, says one. Yup, says the other. They turn away as a typo. They turn away and stare at the ceiling. Walking past these, you are hailed by the next couple. Hey you, helmet head, cries the first. Yeah, where are you going? Asks the other. What will you answer? The truth that you are trying to find Cyrus, 10 to 221, or a fabrication that you are inspecting the ship as part of a security check, 10 to 339. We're going to tell the truth and say that we're looking for Cyrus, 10 to 221. Yeah, exclaims the first. We could be out of a job soon, says the other. Better pack then. You leave them chatting about their possible futures. Turn to 329. You approach the last pair. They are immobile and flank 2 identical doors. One of the devices rolls its eyes at you and says, the right door is the one you want. Don't listen to him, advises the other. He lies. Only sometimes, retorts the first. Through which door will you go? The right, 10 to 131, or the left, 10 to 375? We are going to go through the right door. So, turn to 131. Now, the door opens into a long room occupied by 2 robot sentinels flanking the exit at the far end. As you enter, they open fire with a blaze of darting lasers. You duck back into the cover of the doorway and contemplate how to get past them. The 2 sentinels are heavily armoured saucer-shaped devices which float about 1/3 of a yard, which is a foot, above the floor, and which will almost certainly put up very stiff resistance. Glancing back into the room for a moment, you notice that the ceiling is quite low and constructed in an open crisscross gantry design which runs the entire length of the room. If you have read the book on robotics, turn to 169, otherwise turn to 36. Okay, we have not read the book on robotics. There they are. So we're going to turn to 36. Will you engage the Sentinels in a fight, turn to 74, or jump for the hanging girders of the ceiling and, using them as cover, attempt to approach the exit at the other end of the room, turn to 150. We're going to jump for the hanging girders, so turn to 150. You jump at the ceiling and grab a low girder and swing up onto a narrow walkway, while laser blasts skitter around you. Crouching low, you run along the gantry, ducking constantly as the fire from below smashes with great sparks and splashes of molten metal into the surrounding girder work. Test your luck. If you are lucky, turn to 207. If you are unlucky, turn to 112. Okay, our luck is currently 12, so we're guaranteed to be lucky. Okay, so test our luck. Yep, 11 is less than or equal to 12, so we were lucky, but we have to use a luck point, which means it goes down to 11. Okay, I think if we're unlucky, we take some damage or something. Anyway, 207. You reach the end of the gantry on the other side of the room. Almost directly below are the Sentinels busily blasting away the ceiling around you. Between them, only a couple of yards away, is the open exit. Will you attempt to swing down from the ceiling between the Sentinels and straight through the exit, turn to 243, engage the Sentinels in a fight, turn to 279, or jump onto one of the Sentinels to send it out of control while shooting at the other, turn to 315. Okay, we're going to engage the Sentinels in a fight, turn to 279. Now, when I do this, I have a little confession to make. Now, I was a bit confused between this part and the last part, after the last part, I mean, about the armor points. Now, I completely forgot about armor. Every time I take a hit, I'm supposed to roll for the armor as well, and if I'm successful, I don't take any damage, but if I'm unsuccessful, then I obviously then I do take damage, and I have to use an armor point every time. So I can't remember. I obviously haven't done it before, but I can't remember how many gun battles I've actually done. So my apologies for that. In the last part and in the first part, if there were gun battles and I didn't use the armor points properly, but I don't mind so much because not using the armor only made the game book more difficult. So, I don't mind so much if I make the book more difficult, but I have made it more difficult for myself not using armor, but I will use the armor now. I completely forgot about it. Anyway, so we're fighting two Sentinels. Now, the rules stated at the start of the book that we fight them, if there's two of them, we have to aim for one of them, and then it's pretty ambiguous. It's not exactly that clear, but I'm pretty sure this is what it means. If there's two of them, obviously they're both going to shoot at me, but I can only aim for one of them. So I shoot first, and then I have to aim for one of them, and then they then try and shoot me. So I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to shoot one of them, and then do the other one afterwards. Just need more of these. That's it. Okay, so first Sentinel. That's 4-9. And the good thing about going into the girders is that their skill is reduced. That's the beauty of it, I think. Second Sentinel. Sentinel. Yeah, so my apologies for not using the armor points before. I completely forgot about them because I'm not used to this system of attack in a game book. But it only made it more difficult for myself, so it didn't make it easier. So not using armor makes it more difficult because it's meant to make it easier. Anyway, so their skill is 4. Mine is... Well, what is my skill again? 10. So I roll for me first. So I need this dice roll to be 10 or less. And it was. I have the assault blaster, so now I roll one die, and this determines what the attack is. Okay, so 2. And I'm aiming for the first one first, so that puts them down to 7. Okay, now we're going to do the other two. So their skill is 4, so this dice roll for them needs to be 4 or less for them to be successful. Yep, that was successful. So that was a 2 points of damage. Now, I'm using the armor points. Now, the armor points is I have to roll 2 dice, and the dice roll has to be less than or equal to my armor. And if it is, then then the armor absorbs the shot and I don't take any damage. I think that's how it works. I'll just double check that. So let me just, it's 1279. Roll 2 dice. If the result is equal to or less than the current armor score, then the opponent's shot has not penetrated. Yeah, the opponent's shot penetrated. Yeah, and then deduct armor every time you use it. Okay, so we have to do this every single time that we have armor, effectively. Okay, so I've been hit, so now I'm going to roll 2 dice, and this has to be less than or equal to 12, which is guaranteed. So, yeah, obviously that was, that was successful, but my armor goes down by 1 to 18 now, so it gets harder every time. In theory. Obviously it hasn't gone any harder now, because 18 is still above 12. Anyway, so now we roll for the second one. This needs to be 4 or less for the second one. No, he was unsuccessful, so that's that. Now I'm rolling for me again. Yep, I was successful, and then I'm rolling 1 die, and that's a 1, so I take 1 off the first one rather. Puts them down to 6. Now we're rolling for the 2 Sentinels again, so this needs to be 4 or less. It was. So now I'm rolling for armor. This needs to be 18 or less, which it is, of course. So that just takes 1 armor point off, puts me down to 17. Yeah, so that's that. And now we're rolling for the second Sentinel, so this needs to be 4 or less, which it was. Now we're rolling for armor, which it is, of course, less than 17. So that puts me down to 16, and that's that. Okay, pretty unlucky there, to be honest, but they both got their hits in. Again, now we're rolling for me, 10 or less. Good, and what did I get? I got a 5, that's quite good. So that puts the first Sentinel down to 1. Now we're rolling for the Sentinels again. Okay, 4 or less, no, and no. So they missed both of them. Now we're rolling for me. Yep, I was successful. Now we're rolling for that, which is 1. Well, I'm guaranteed to kill him now, aren't I? So, and he has 1 left. So that's the first one dead. Now we're only rolling for the second Sentinel because the first one's dead. Okay, so needs to be 4 or less, which it isn't, so he's unsuccessful. Rolling for me. Yep, I was successful. How much damage? That's 2 damage. So that puts him down to 7. Okay, rolling for him now. Yeah, that was successful. Rolling for the armor. Yeah, obviously it was less than 16. So that puts me down to 15 armor. So that is that. Now we're rolling for me again. Yep, and how much damage? That's a 3. So we do 3 damage on the second Sentinel. Puts him down to 4. Rolling for him now. That was a 2, so he was successful. Roll for the armor, which obviously is less than 15 because it's 2 dice. Puts me down to 14 armor. Alright, I'm very unlucky with them. They're getting all their hits in even though their skill is only 4. It's unbelievable, really. Okay, rolling for me again. Yeah, successful. And I did 2 points of damage. That puts him down to 2. Rolling for him now, 4 or less, which it is not, so he's unsuccessful. Rolling for me, yeah, I was successful, and that's the end of second Sentinel. Okay, puts him down to -3, but, can't get below -3, 0 rather. Anyway, so that's the end of the Sentinels, and we're done. No buzzings, let's move on. We defeated them, so turn to 351. Yes, that's how armor works. It just adds an extra bit. So when your armor is below 12, then you get into the risk of your armor not working. And obviously when your armor's 0, then there's no point doing it anymore, obviously. Or at least when your armor's 1, yeah, there's no point doing it anymore. Anyway, the Sentinels are smoking piles of debris, littering the floor with smashed and burning parts. You stride past them and through the exit, turn to 369. The opening leads into a narrow corridor which, after twisting and winding for a while, ends in a door. Going through this, you find yourself in what is obviously the ship's bridge. There are panoramic visuals, holographic plotters and maps, and scores of comlinks. In front of you, standing before a control panel with which it is connected by an umbilical cord, is the ship's pilot. A stunningly wrought humanoid robot. Its chromium limbs send reflections skittering across the walls as it turns to face you. Ah, you've arrived, it says, almost smiling. I've been quite looking forward to chatting with such an interesting person. Wrought, by the way, means like metal work. Wrought iron, it means it's been worked upon, like metal has. Yeah, that's what wrought means. Anyway, I've been quite looking forward to chatting with such an interesting person. Will you talk with the pilot, 10 to 18, or assume it's trying to get your guard down and attack it, 10 to 94? Okay, there it is. We're going to assume it's trying to get our guard down and attack it, and turn to 94. Here we are. You fire at it, your blaster tearing gaping holes in its beautiful chromium shell. It slumps against the control panel and looks at you with perhaps a quizzical expression. What a strange person. It crashes to the floor and bursts into flames. Turn to 75. Okay, that was good. The bridge has 3 doors leading from it. One is marked with a star, another with a crescent, and the third has the legend computer stenciled on it. Which will you go through? The star door, 10 to 189, the crescent door, 10 to 208, or the third door, 10 to 113? We're going to go through the crescent door, 10 to 208. The door opens into a spacious room. There are deep chairs, paintings, off-world rugs, bookshelves lined with vellum-covered volumes, and there in one of the chairs is Cyrus. He looks at you in a rather startled way. With nervous haste he puts down the book he was reading and starts to his feet. Welcome, he begins. Can I offer you a drink? Would you accept his offer and chat with him a while before making the arrest, 10 to 244, or will you move straight in for the kill and capture him immediately, 10 to 280? There he is. We're going to move in straight for the kill and capture him immediately, 10 to 280. Wait, Cyrus cries, flailing his arms in the air as you close in. Give a man about to lose his freedom one last request, a moment of reprieve. You just look at him distrustfully. I'm a compulsive gambler, he tells you. Will you play just one hand of cards with me? Well, will you play 10 to 226, or just grab him and finish it now, 10 to 262? We're going to grab him and finish it now, and 10 to 262. We're going to strike while the iron's hot. Okay. As you lunge over towards him, he sidesteps and grabs a mechanical device from a coffee table. Stop, he cries. Don't move. This device is a very complicated piece of machinery that on which I've been working of late. It fires a guided armor-piercing dart. It never misses. Now stand aside. Will you do as he says, 10 to 19, or go for him regardless, 10 to 370? We are going to go for him regardless, and 10 to 370. As you dive at him again, he throws the device in your face while scuttling nimbly to the other side of the room, where he gives the hanging picture a sharp twist. A small secret panel opens and Cyrus dives through. The panel shuts. You notice that the device with which Cyrus threatened you is nothing more than the clockwork mechanism from an ancient clock. Must be his hobby, you mutter to yourself as you twist the picture to open the secret panel. When it obliges, you dive through into a chute after the scientist. Turn to 171. Okay, there he is. When you reach the end of the chute, you find yourself in a large hangar housing a small starship. Cyrus, anticipating your pursuit, has climbed into a stevedore waldo. I don't know what that word is. Stevedore? Waldo, an enormously powerful machine of roughly human proportions with regard to number of arms and legs, but mechanically magnifying the operator's movements to a terrifying degree. Cyrus, using the Waldo, has picked up an industrial laser with which to attack you. Will you fight him, turn to 95, or look in your pack for another means of defeating him, turn to 152? We are going to fight him and turn to 95. There he is again. You fire at Cyrus's Waldo. Cyrus, skill 9, stamina 12. If you defeat him, turn to 400. Okay, so Cyrus, I don't need any more after this. Skill 9, stamina 12. Okay, so this is another gun battle. So let's do this again. So rolling for my skill, which is 10. I was successful. How many points of damage? And we did 4. 4 points of damage. So that puts him down to 8. Right, now we're rolling for him. He needs this to be 9 or less. Yeah, it was. So now, how many... Or rather, I need to roll for the armour, don't I? Yep, that's definitely less than what we have, 14 or whatever. So that puts me down to 13 armour points. Whoops, 1 there. There we go. Okay, now we're rolling for me again. Needed to be 10 or less, which it wasn't, so I missed. So now we're rolling for him. It was 9 or less, so now I'm rolling for the armour, which is definitely less than 13, so it puts us down to 12. Okay, now we're rolling for me again. Needed to be 10 or less, which it is. How many points of damage? We did 6 points of damage, so that puts him down to 2. Can't count for some reason. Puts him down to 2, that's quite good. Okay, now we're rolling for him. He needs to be 9 or less, which it is. So need to roll for the armour. This needs to be 12 or less, which it is. So that puts you down to 11 points of armour. There we go. Okay, rolling for me now. 10 or less, yep. And how many points of damage? And we did 6 points of damage. Okay, that's the end of Cyrus. That's that. That was quite easy, wasn't it? Okay, that's the end of Cyrus. So that's that. Get rid of the buzzing. And let's go to paragraph 400, which means it's the end. What is that? I don't know. Something else to do with a book, I imagine. Anyway, you drag the unconscious Cyrus from the Waldo. Your mission is a complete success. Congratulations. That was anticlimactic, wasn't it? Okay, so that's the end of Space Assassin. That's that. My apologies again for not using the armour points in part 1 or 2 if I needed to, but it only made it more difficult, so it doesn't matter too much, but I used them in this part. Made that a lot easier, much easier than it should be, because I didn't even use any stamina or anything on him, especially with the assault blaster as well. Made it really easy. Okay. Let's have another look at some other places that we could have, other things we could have done. What would have happened if I'd have accepted his offer of a drink? 244. He goes to the drinks cabinet, pours you a large Antares red, motions you to be seated, and then sits next to you. "So you have come to take me into custody?" he asks. You nod and take a sip of your drink. You inform him of his crimes against society and how, if he's lucky, he'll only get 99 years instead of the chair. He nods pensively and seems repentant. It is at this moment that you feel decidedly ill. You hold your head as waves of nausea and unconsciousness sweep over you. He's drugged your drink. Well, of course he would. Roll 3 dice. If the result is equal to or greater than your stamina, turn to 316. If it's less than your stamina, turn to 352. If it's greater than your stamina, 316. Let's see what that does. 316 or 352. Okay, so that leads to death. You succumb to the poison. Okay, 352. Through the miasma, you see him standing by. You struggle against unconsciousness and win. You stand up, reeling drunkenly. Through the miasma, you see him standing by a table. You reach for your gun. You're going to get this fellow 262. Okay, so that's what happens then. Okay, so it's just a little trick to make us lose a bit of health before we have to arrest him. Okay, so this is doing the gambling. So, oh no, this is the this is the armor-piercing dart fake thing he did. So 19. He steps away from you and walks to the other side of the room, hitting a switch. If you have the infrared goggles, he plunges the room into darkness. You have the infrared goggles. If not, turn to 334. So it's just another trick, isn't it? Cyrus has disappeared. Okay, so it's just luck, and if you're unlucky, you get to find him in his thing. If you're unlucky, you go to 57, which is presumably the end. Yeah, he's escaped, yeah. Okay, so let's find him again. Let's see what happens if we do that. I want to see the gambling thing. There it is. Okay, so 280. Okay, gambling request 226 if you want to play as gambling. He prattles on about how he loves a good bet, a good card game. He hunts around in the drawer of a desk, presumably for some cards, presumably. He comes out of the drawer head up with a gun which he points at you. So they thought they could get rid of me using just one of their so-called assassins, eh? He asks derisively, waving the pistol at you as he paces up and down the room. A whole planet can dispose of me. They will pay. How they will pay. He slams a switch on the wall, plunging the room. Oh, he's doing the darkness thing again. Okay, so just doing the darkness thing again. 171, and then you're taken to there. Okay. Okay, let's see what that robot did. The pilot, because the pilot wanted to talk to you. I'm interested in what the pilot would say. No. Must be this way. Good job, it's next to a picture. It's so difficult keeping track of all the things you have to do. Armor points, luck points. It's so difficult. I mean, I should be more careful. I knew there was something I was doing wrong in particular. I thought, what about the armor points? Never use them. And then I looked it up after the second part rather, and thought, oh, blimey. And then by that point, I'd already uploaded the second part, so I can't really be bothered to do that again. And seeing as it made the book more difficult for me, I thought I'd allow it. But yeah, my apologies for that. Yeah. Oh, here it is. So, talk to the pilot. Yeah, 18. What does the pilot say? Come in, it urges amiably, waving you forward. Tell me, it continues, since you're a person who deals with life and death, consciousness and non-consciousness, do you think that it is possible that one of us is simply the creation of the other's mind? Do you think that you could be dreaming me, or that I could be dreaming you? What a question. Will you hazard an answer? Turn to 132, or tell the pilot that you really don't know? Turn to 170. Let's try 170 first, say we don't know. It's interesting. Oh, says the pilot, a little hurt at your reply. But, it continues, if it were possible, and we assume, just for the argument's sake, that you are actually the conscious entity creating this world around you, out of your own mind, do you think that I, a creation of yours, might be able to have conscious experiences without your conscious knowledge of such events? Could I be a sort of sub-self of you? Would you tell the robot that you don't know, turn to 37, or ignore the rather bizarre questioning and change the subject to something more useful, such as the whereabouts of Cyrus? Let's say we don't know again, 37. It's quite interesting, this. Oh, says the disappointed pilot, perhaps you're not really such an interesting person after all. Quite boring, actually. It sighs and turns away. I think you should leave now, it says. Turn to 75. Oh, so that's it. That's the end of it. It's the same as if we shot it. So let's say we don't know again and see what it says if we say the other thing. Whereabouts of Cyrus? 389. Yeah, you say, waving aside the robot's question. Look, all that garbage aside, I want to know where. Yes, cuts in the. I'll start again. Yeah, you say, waving aside the robot's question. Look, all that garbage aside, I want to know where. Yes, cuts in the pilot icily. I know what you want, pleb. I know what you think you want, and I know where you can find him. But I also know what you actually want, what you really need. What, you ask? Wondering what super weapon the pilot is going to reveal for your use? What you really need is this. The robot presses a switch on the control panel. Instantly, panels in the floor and ceiling slide away, allowing the stasis generators hidden behind them to grip you in a glove of timelessness. Frozen, unconscious, and in enemy hands, you have failed. Oh, so he was malicious after all. Okay, let's go back to 18 and answer his silly question about consciousness or whatever. 132, if we hazard an answer. I suppose it might be possible, you reply hesitantly. Well then, says the robot, excited, obviously you think that you are consciousness. Sorry. I suppose it might be possible, you reply hesitantly. Well then, says the robot, excited, obviously you think that you are conscious. So we'll take that as being axiomatic. Axiomatic means an axiom in terms speaking in terms of mathematics, when an axiom is something that a rule that you apply to something. For example, when if, for example, with numbers, we think up a number system, you know, in logic, we have to start somewhere. We can't just say, we can't just say, oh, there are or rather, we can't just prove there are numbers. We have to say at some point there are numbers and this is what we can do with them. So I say there's an axiom that I can add 1 and 1 together to make 2, and then from that the rest of arithmetic comes. I can say, well, I can add 2 and 1 because that's just 1 and 1 and 1, which makes 3, and then so on and so forth. And then with that I can with that axiom then I can make multiplication. I can say, well, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3 times 1, so 3 times 1 is 3, and so 3 times 2 is it's 2 plus 2 plus 2. So an axiom is a rule that starts off logic. It doesn't have to be with numbers. It could be with set theory. You can start off an axiom for set theory with we assume that first of all we have to assume that sets exist. We assume that there can be an empty set or a set with something in it. And then from that, I can make a set with 2 things. I can say a set with 2 objects in it contains the empty set and the set that has 1 thing in it. So that's a set of 2 things, and I can say there's a set of 3 things. There's the set of there's a set with 2 things in it, the empty set, and the set with 1 thing in it. That's 3. That's a set of 3 things, and so on and so on and so forth. But the point is, I have to start from somewhere. I can't just I can't prove that there is a set to begin with. I have to assume that there is an empty set, and that's an axiom. I have to start with my logic somewhere. It's like with Euclidean geometry. I have to start by saying, yes, I can draw a point in space, and I can draw 2 points, and I can connect those 2 points with a straight line. I have to assume that. That's an axiom. Anyway, where was I? Anyway, so I suppose it might be possible, you reply hesitantly. Well then, says the robot, excited. Obviously you think that you are conscious, so we'll take that as being axiomatic, so he can assume that. Given this, do you think that even though I'm a creation of your own mind, I might be able to have conscious experiences without your conscious knowledge of such events? Could I be a sort of sub-self of you? Would you tell the robot that you haven't the foggiest idea of what it's talking about, 10 to 37, or run the risk of seriously offending it by making a very possibly irrelevant answer, 10 to 56? Let's turn to 56. Why, yes, you say. If I could create a whole world in my mind, why not give my creations awareness? But that would mean I would be like a god, an unwitting god, to be sure. But still, you trail off, unsure whether you have overstepped the bounds of decency and sanity. Excellent, says the pilot. My very own thoughts. What an amazing brain you have. We must part the best of friends. He takes you by the arm and points you at a door on which is marked a crescent. See that, he says, through there lies your aim and destiny. Go forth, child of my mind. Turn to 75. I think that's a much more interesting way than just shooting him, I think. So, yeah, interesting kind of situation there. Anyway, that leads to the same place which we've already done, so nothing more to do with that. What would have happened if we would have gone the path on this place here, 185? When you are about halfway around the pool, a series of ripples spreads across the face of the water. You hurry along, but notice to your horror that tentacles are rising out of the pool's edge and crawling like slimy green serpents towards you. Before you can run, you are surrounded. Out of the water rise bloated green bodies, ghastly yellow eyes glinting, and hungry beaks clicking. Confronting you are 2 creatures which resemble both man and octopus. Will you fight them, 10 to 204, or search through your pack for some other means of defense, 10 to 240? Okay, so that was a bad thing, so that's the wrong choice. There's him again. And anyway, that's that. They're the interesting ones I wanted to have a look at, really. Obviously, you could read this book yourself and then go the other ways yourself, but they were the ones I really wanted to look at, the extra things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed Space Assassin. Only took me 3 parts. Interesting philosophical discussion of consciousness and awareness and solipsism, which is the belief that you're the centre of the universe and everything is a figment of your imagination, and my discussion of axioms, both mathematical and geometric, and in terms of set theory. Anyway, so thanks a lot for watching, and next video will be another game book. I don't know which one, so thanks again and goodbye.